Hey guys, welcome back to another deck list video. This one is going to be about Crusadia, obviously. I recently rediscovered the deck and tested some of it on my live stream, and I gotta say, it performed way better than I expected that it would. It just seems to be able to out most boards and then kill people, especially if you go second. It has a couple of first turn plays, but really this is a go second build. This does not feature guard dragons at all, and is mostly about the kaiju engine and Nibiru. So keep that in mind as we're going through the video. If you want a guard dragon variant, this is not the place where you need to be, but if you don't want to run guard dragons, this is where you want to go. Now that Agripane is gone, there's really not much that the guard dragon package offers this deck, but kaijus are still good to go, and we run a lot more kaijus now. So with that said, let's just get right into the deck list. So starting off with the monster lineup, it's pretty standard for most Crusadia builds. We run 3 of each Crusadia monster, 3 Maximus, 3 Draco, 3 Leonis, 3 Arborea, and 3 Reclusia. Now, this is pretty standard. Some people tend to drop copies of certain Crusadia monsters because they're just not as viable. The big picks are Reclusia and Leonis, more so Leonis than Reclusia. But I think that the deck just really needs you to open up to Crusadia to really guarantee your combo, so you want to run as many of them as possible. Since we've only really got 5 of them, you get 15 Crusadia monsters, and I think dropping Leonis or any of the other ones down is not all the best. So yeah, run 3 of each, and is my humble recommendation. Next, you want to run 2 copies of World Legacy World Crown. This is a Crusadia in all ways but name. It has the same special summoning condition, but it also has a relatively conditional negate. It can negate the activated effect of a monster special summon from the extra deck. So if you go first, you can drop this under something, and this can keep your opponents from doing too many extra deck shenanigans, which will eventually save you. And even in the worst case scenario, he is a 2k beater that can buff up your Crusadia Link monsters, and that's really all you want from a monster in this deck. So yeah, 2 World Legacy World Crowns. Don't run more than that because you can't really normal summon it, but we have other special summons to get to in the form of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kaijus. Now, some people might argue that you don't really want to run 2 kaijus at the same attack points, which you don't have to. You could very easily drop the Jizukiru or the Thunder King and throw in a Gamma Seal. But Gamma Seal, if you give that to your opponent and they're running the actual kaiju package with counters and everything, can get you into trouble. So just to be safe, I think that you could run the 2 higher attack monsters, especially because we have so many kaiju. And because it doesn't matter which kaijus you give your opponent in this deck, because most of the time they're going to be buffing up your Equimax, no matter which side of the field they're on. So really, you could just have Thunder King and Jizukiru and still be fine in your deck if that's what you have to work with. But these are your out tools. You use them to get rid of a problem on your opponent's side of the field. Say they've opened with an El Shaddai Wenda, you can tribute over that, now you can special summon some more. Let's say they've opened with, a Orchist Link and a Crescendo, you can tribute over the Orchist Link and now their Crescendo is dead. Things like that. This is just a very good package to run for your kaiju monsters, in my opinion. Now, the next monster I've got as a 3 of, because this is the card I happen to own, is Effect Veiler. These Effect Veilers really need to be Nibirus, but I can't get my hands on Nibiru right now. I know it's cheap, and I know that I could get it easily, I just don't have them with me right now. And I really need to get this video out before I have to give back this camera stand that I'm borrowing. So I have Effect Veilers in place of Nibiru. Run Nibiru. Don't run Effect Veiler, run Nibiru. Nibiru will out a lot of boards. Other alternatives to Nibiru, if you don't like Nibiru, you can run Dark Ruler No More, which will get you the same goal. I just think that it's better to kill stuff than to negate their effects. Plus Nibiru gives you your own body, your own 3k that can buff up your Crusadia links, which is what the deck is all about. Or if you need to go into an Avramax, you get a 3k beater that'll help you push for game a little bit better, because that's what this deck wants to do. It wants to OTK your opponent. These need to be Nibirus or Dark Ruler No Mores. I prefer Nibiru. That's it for the monster lineup. Now you want to run your spells, which will be 3 Pot of Desires. You run a lot of 3-ofs, and even if you banish some of your 1-ofs, it's not the end of the world. There's not a lot of them. You know, even your Kaijus are 1-ofs, but as long as you've got a couple in your deck or in your hand, you'll be fine. And you run all of your Crusadias at 3. So the likelihood that this will end up bricking your deck is minimal. But it is a +2, which is something that this deck sometimes needs, is just that +2. Even if this is the card you open with, it's really not the end of the world. If it gets ashed or something, you just want that as your means to get to play extenders, more Crusadias, more Kaijus, things like that. Then you need to run 2-3 copies of Called by the Grave. This will help you get through hand traps. Ash Blossoms are a pain in the neck. But all of the hand traps are really pains in the neck with this deck, so you really don't want them to hit you. The only hand trap that you really can't get around is Nibiru himself. But I'm sure there's a way you can think of to get around it. You just have to, contemplate it. You can probably use one of the other cards to do it. That's how I would do it, which we'll get to that card here in a minute. But before we get to that, we have to run our 3 Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. I don't think a lot of people remember that Kaiju Slumber is at 3. This will outboard some boards on their own, because some people just don't run Spell Trap Negate, because most of the things that you want to hit are... Now, this can get ashed, and this really isn't that big of a deal, but typically you want to activate that while you have a Kaiju in your hand, because then you can tribute a problem, activate this, pop this Kaiju, give them a different Kaiju, which is actually really funny when you pull it off on people and they just don't understand what the heck is going on. But it is a board wipe. It is an out that ends with your opponent you get to pick where your opponent's monster is, so that you can have your Equimax point at it and then kill it. Next is the last 5 cards are 1-of spells. You run 1 power. This is how you get around Nibiru. Normally your Nibiru will wait until you get to a boss monster of some sort and then crack it. But then you can activate this and it becomes unaffected by the Nibiru, so now they just have a rock and you've still got your boss monster. 1 revival, those 500 attack points come in handy more often than you can imagine, just getting you that lethal attack that you need. And then as for play extenders, we have 1 World Legacy Succession and 1 Monster Reborn. You could argue getting the World Legacy Succession up from 1, just because that's such a good card in this deck. And even if it is in once per turn, it's still really good and can help you recover or extend your play. And then 1 Rhoda, which acts as a extra copy of Arborea in the deck, so that you can keep going and get your Crusadias the more you need them, because you really need to open those 2 special summons so that you can get to your Crusadia monsters. But that is it for the main deck. Now on to the extra deck. The extra deck lineup is 3 copies of Crusadia Magius. This is your monster searcher. You summon a Crusadia, make him, special summon another, search whatever other Crusadia you need. Usually it's going to be Maximus or Draco. Those are the 2 ones that are the best in my opinion. 2 copies of Regulex. You only really need the 2 after him. This is really in here so that you can get 3 copies of him are really in here so you can get to Crusadia Avramax in the event that you need to go first or that you have to plan B it. But he will search out your spell cards like Magius searches out your monster cards, so he can get you the power so that you can keep playing if you think your opponent has the Nibiru. 1 Spatha, just in case your opponent, you can't rearrange your opponent's monsters. This will put the monster where you need it to be so that you can punch over it and kill your opponent. This was run originally in the Guard Dragon build to move your LP, but now it's just you want to correct your field. So it's nice to run it a 1 of. 2 copies of Equimax. This is the card that will win you your games more times than not. This is where you want to end and then smash your opponent's face in and deal 15,000 points of damage to them. This card will win you games. It has its own negate protection, so that's always nice. Just make sure you've got enough attack points to kill your opponent with it before you do that negate. I mean, always do the negate, but just make sure you've got your backup plans, just in case. But he is Horse Boy, he is Best Boy, he will kill your opponent for you. Our non-Crusadia links are a Nightmare Cerberus, a Nightmare Phoenix, and a Topologic Trisbana. These 2 cards sometimes you have to go into after making Equimax to pop something dangerous, like a Boral Sword or something along those lines. And this is here to get rid of your opponent's back row. Back row is a problem in this deck. There's not really a lot of outs to it, but that's why you run it in the side deck, because the meta doesn't really run that much back row that you can't just work around and deal with. But if they set 5 and pass, you make Topologic Trisbana, summon something underneath it, pop it, swing in, and then typically that's it for their turn. And then the Nightmares are here for that same reason. And then last, you want to run 2 level 7 synchros of your choice. Arborea is a tuner, and with either Draco or Maximus, you can make these synchros. Typically, I wouldn't run the Moonlight Dragon. I would keep the Crystal Wing, but instead of running Moonlight Dragon, I would run a copy of Cyber's Quantum Dragon, because that will further protect your links and help you keep them on the board, because they can only target it for effects and attacks, so that your Equimax or your Avramax can stay on the board longer. And then this is just I think the best generic level 7 negate card, because it will negate your opponent's big monster effects and then get a bunch of attack points, which is nice. Now, there are 2 slots that are missing, but I don't have my Link 4s, so your Link 4s need to be, and I'll pop them up on the screen. You'll want a Avramax and either a Boral Sword or a Saryuja Skulldread. I go with the Boral Sword over the Saryuja, because even if I draw into some cards with Saryuja, it's typically not the best way to go, especially since this is a Link Climb deck. And then the Avramax, I could see an argument for 2 Avramax, but really you only need the 1. He is your plan B. Ending on him and passing is not the end of the world, and it can actually do you a lot of good, especially if you have like Crusadia power to protect him, or Arborea or somebody. So those are the 2 Link 4s I recommend in their place, because I don't have those 2 cards. I have another Regulix and another Equimax. But, you'll want something more versatile than those, and you'll want them to be those Link 4s. But yeah, that's it for the deck list. This deck does really well, and I can out a lot of boards, a lot of setups. Just because Nibiru is such a big beast, and Kaijus are still one of the best spot removal cards in the game. But opening a hand, your opening hand optimally will be like an Interrupted Slumber, one of your Play Extenders, one of your Kaijus, and then any 2 of your Crusadias. Preferably you want at least one of them to be a Maximus or a Draco, because Draco you need Draco to be in there somewhere, and you'd like Maximus to be there so that you can guarantee your lethal swing because of the double damage effect. So you want, generally, this is your best opening hand, in my opinion, and you can hit this pretty easy. Some kind of disruption. This could be a Nibiru for all I care, typically a Slumber or another Kaiju, one of your Extenders, and 2 Crusadias. But yep, that is it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have fun playing this deck if you decide to build it. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Click all the buttons. They really help me. I live stream on Twitch. You can follow me there. I try to do that as often as I can. but things pop up, so sometimes I can't stream, but I typically start at 7 p.m. my time. I have a Twitter account where I try to post memes and stuff. I should probably start actually tweeting out my videos when I upload them, but, you know, hindsight's 2020, so just follow me on all of my stuff and you'll get more of my content. Make sure that you're up to date whenever I post stuff. But that is it for the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.